Morning light slants across a small-town café as William Harris, 70, opens the local paper. His hands stop. On the obituary page, a grainy photo of his own face stares back. William Harris, age 70, passed away peacefully at home. A nearby whisper. Poor man. Alone in the world. William swallows breath shallow. He reads the line again, willing the ink to change. It doesn't, softly to himself. If I'm dead, who's sitting here? The room seems to tilt. He folds the paper stands and steadies himself on the table. If you woke up to your own obituary, what would you do? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more gripping family betrayal stories. The walk home feels unfamiliar, as if the streets belong to someone else. William Harris tucks the newspaper under his arm like contraband and steps through the door of his modest house. Voices meet him at once. Dad Daniel is already on his feet, polished shirt, practiced concern. Megan follows with a steaming mug of tea, eyes wide, voice tender. Please sit, Father. What happened? William lays the paper on the coffee table, open to the obituary page. Megan's hand flies to her mouth. Daniel leans in. This says you're dead. I noticed, William answers, forcing calm. It says I passed peacefully. Daniel straightens, jaw set. We'll call the paper. It's a disgusting mistake. William studies their faces. They're almost too composed. Yes, he says slowly, a mistake. That evening, Megan roasts a chicken and lights 2 candles on the oak table as if ritual could repair the day. Daniel uncorks a bottle of red. To our father, he says, glass raised, the rock of this family, many more years. The sentiment floats warmly, but William catches the thin second where Daniel's eyes flick to Megan, and Megan answers with the smallest nod. The 2-second exchange leaves a chill. The front door creaks. Alex, 22, in a hoodie, smells faintly of beer. Evening, he mutters, dropping a backpack by the door. Daniel's patience evaporates. Look at you, 22, and coasting. Dropped out. Credit cards maxed. All you care about is the bar. At least I don't pretend. Alex shoots back, sliding into a chair. Megan's smile stiffens. William listens, the contrast sharp. Daniel crisp and controlled, Alex messy and blunt. It's easy to pick a favorite based on polish alone. A knock interrupts them. Mrs. Carter, the neighbor, stands on the porch with a pie. Bill, I'm so sorry for your loss. I read the paper. I thought. She spots William behind the doorframe and flushes scarlet. Oh my goodness, forgive me. This is awkward. It's all right, Linda, William says gently. Thank you for the pie. As she leaves, the table falls into a foggy quiet. The phone rings twice that night, an old colleague offering condolences, then sputtering apologies when William answers in a living voice. When he returns, Daniel has carved the chicken calm again. Between bites, he clears his throat. Dad, this whole mess is a reminder. You really should get your paperwork in order, the deed, the shares, the will. It saves grief later. Megan's tone is velvet. He's right. You don't want strangers or, heaven forbid, the government deciding your estate. Family should take care of family. William balances his fork in midair. In the candlelight, their faces could be concern carved from wood, but something feels rehearsed. He sets the fork down. We'll discuss it another time. Later, dishes stacked, William lingers by the cold fireplace beneath Margaret's portrait. Her painted smile is soft. The eyes seem to ask questions. He whispers, You'd cut through this faster than I can. On the stairs, Alex pauses. He shrugs off his hoodie and drapes it over William's shoulders without a word, then keeps going. The small gesture warms William more than the tea had. The next day moves like a test of normal. Hoses hiss on lawns. A postal truck grinds by. Yet the obituary keeps working on the town. A florist van idles confused at the curb. A church friend calls to ask about memorial arrangements. William corrects him, voice thin with disbelief. He hangs up and stares at the phone as if it might accuse him again. In the kitchen, envelopes sit in their usual stack: Medicare property tax, a grocery coupon. William touches the familiar paper to ground himself, then notices Megan watching him from the doorway. Father, she says lightly, I spoke to a friend in insurance last week. She says it's tragic how many families suffer because elders don't leave clear instructions. Tragic, William echoes. Perhaps Daniel could help organize, she suggests, so nothing falls into the wrong hands. Her smile is gentle, but the edges glint. William watches a bead of water run down the side of the teapot. Wrong hands. Megan's smile doesn't move. I only mean you deserve peace. That evening, Alex arrives late smelling like beer again. Daniel pounces. You think life is one long Friday night, you're dragging this family down. Alex stares at his plate. I'll get it together. Will you, Daniel presses, or will you keep hiding behind excuses, Daniel, William says, surprising himself. The room stills. Let the boy eat. Alex flicks a glance toward him, surprised, grateful, embarrassed. Thanks, he mutters. After the meal, Daniel lingers in the doorway with William. Dad. You didn't need to take his side. I took no one's side, William replies. Just my dinner. Daniel's smile is thin. You raised me to be responsible. Responsibility means planning. Sign the documents. Protect the family. William meets his eyes. I will protect the family. Night settles over the house. Upstairs, Alex's footsteps creak. Downstairs, William turns off lights and stands again beneath Margaret's portrait. He lets memory trickle in the blanket Daniel once put over his shoulders, the promise whispered at the kitchen table. I'll take care of you when you're old. Now the town believes him dead, and the people who call him family seem very eager to talk about the future without him. William breathes slowly until the thought steadies. He will watch, he will listen, and he will not sign a single page until the truth shows itself. Morning brought more calls. A cousin from Ohio left a voicemail whispering condolences between sniffles. A church deacon asked if the sanctuary could host the service. William repeated the same sentence to each. There is no service. I am alive. Saying it out loud steadied him, like lifting a weight until the muscle remembered how. At lunch, Daniel hovered with a stack of forms. Just signatures, he said, too casually. Emergency contacts. Banking backup stuff that got messy after the obituary. William scanned the top sheet. This transfers the house. Daniel smiled tightly. Only in case, Dad. You don't want probate, I want honesty. William slid the stack back. We'll wait. Megan appeared with a refill of tea. No one's rushing you, she said softly. We just want to be ready. Life is fragile. She touched his shoulder as if testing how easily it could be moved. William kept still the way a post holds its ground while the storm looks for purchase. Long after the house quieted, William sat beneath the portrait of Margaret and let the past unspool leaner than the way memory usually tells it. After Margaret died, there was a boy and a small trucking company and not much else. Daniel clung to William's pant leg at the funeral and whispered, Don't leave me too, Daddy. William promised. The promise became a schedule. Dawn. Loads dusk. Invoices, midnight books at the kitchen table while a child slept down the hall. He kept the lights on and the fridge humming. He learned to fix busted taillights and stalled faith with the same socket wrench. There were sweet days. Dad's home, Daniel used to shout launching into William's arms. On Christmas mornings, 2 or 3 simple gifts could light the whole living room. One night when William fell asleep over receipts, a small blanket appeared over his shoulders. I'll take care of you when you're old, a boy's voice whispered. William believed him with the trust of a man who has nothing else to believe. Then came the teenage drift, louder friends, riskier nights. Bills that arrived like weather. One call still stings in memory. Daniel wrecked the family car, drag racing. William signed papers, apologized to officers, sold a parcel of land his father had left him to clear the debt. Daniel cried, promised change. William wanted to accept the promise. He did. The company grew anyway because work is stubborn. 2 trucks became 5, then 10. Contracts expanded from county lines to state ones. William never felt rich, but he had something solid to hand down. He paid tuition, helped with a down payment, bought Daniel a used sedan, and time to become the man William was sure he could be. Then Daniel brought Megan home. She arrived with a pie, a soft, It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Harris, in the manners of someone raised to read rooms. She washed dishes that first night and laughed at William's trucking stories in all the right places. For a while, hope felt reasonable, but small comments began to scrape. When insurance renewals came up, Megan smiled. It must be exhausting to manage all that at your age. Daniel should take it off your plate, simplify things. At a barbecue, she joked, Don't worry, Dad. Someday all this will be ours, a Daniel's. The laugh rang, but her eyes counted square footage. William reminded himself to be generous. People fumble words. She was kind on holidays, quick with a cheek kiss, careful to say, "Father." He filed the doubts away like old invoices kept but out of sight. Alex complicated the picture. He'd lost his own father early, and grief threw him into a sideways orbit. He wore the same broken sneakers until William noticed and replaced them without comment. He drifted through classes, then out of college. Daniel sneered, hopeless. Megan sighed. Another mouth to feed. William tried not to see a burden, but the surface made it easy to judge. Yet quieter scenes kept interrupting the verdict. One winter, when Margaret's mother took a bad turn, Alex shoveled her walkway before school for weeks so she wouldn't slip. When William's back spasmed during a move, Alex lifted every box without being asked. Once William caught him sliding a 20 into the medicine jar and thought he heard him mutter, "It's not much, but it helps." Praise embarrassed the boy, so William learned to say thank you with a nod and a sandwich. Years layered on. Daniel's suits got sharper. His tone did too. Alex stayed rumpled, a little lost around the edges. Megan pressed the simplify idea, more often deeds. Titles, beneficiaries. It would give everyone peace, she said, calm as tea. William countered with jokes. Peace makes me nervous, but the pattern did not change. Deeds, titles, beneficiaries. Looking back from the night of the obituary, the through line is clearer than William had let it be. He had spent decades extending credit to Daniel Grace, Moneyland the future, and collecting on none of it. He had measured Alex by appearances and noise, instead of consistency and small, stubborn acts. The math of love is not done in silence, yet William had kept silent for years. He remembers the day Margaret's breath grew shallow and the house felt too big. Alex arrived with a cheap spiral notebook. "What's her dosage again?" he asked, then wrote it down. He built a schedule on the back page and taped it to the fridge. William walked in once to find Margaret stroking Alex's hair, whispering, "You have a good heart." The words lodged now in William's chest like a compass point. Other memories lose their shine. Daniel at 17 promising to change with a gleam in his eye that looked too much like entitlement. Daniel at 25 asking for help with one last debt. Daniel at 30 arguing that the company would run better if ownership were streamlined. None of these moments proved malice. Each could be explained, but together they taught a lesson William refused to learn. Some people treat love like a line of credit with no intention of paying. He thinks too of the blank spaces. How often he let work become the language he spoke to his son, invoices standing in for conversations, signed checks for affection. Love requires clarity, Margaret had said near the end. Don't close your eyes to what you see. William had promised he wouldn't. Then he did, because seeing can be the bravest, loneliest work. Tonight, the promise returns in a different shape. The obituary didn't just announce a death, it underlined a truth. Daniel had practiced at erasing the parts of William that were inconvenient, the will that wasn't signed yet, the business that wasn't transferred, the father who still breathed. Ink merely made the practice public. Across the room, Margaret's portrait keeps its soft smile. William studies it until his breath slows. He inventories what the past has actually taught him, not the myths he preferred. A blanket placed on tired shoulders means more than polished speeches. Quiet help at midnight outweighs public toasts. A man who sells land to save his son may also need one day to fence off the rest to save himself. He rubs his eyes and stands. The future is smaller than it used to be, but clearer. Alex's hoodie still hangs on the chair, warm from an earlier kindness. William folds it neatly and leaves it there, a reminder to measure love by weight, not volume. Have I raised the wrong son? He asks the room softly. Or did I simply refuse to see the right one? The house has no answer, but the question itself feels like a door opening. He also remembers the first contract he almost lost. The warehouse manager wanted a bigger carrier. William drove there himself. Shook the man's hand and promised a week of flawless runs. He slept in the cab 3 nights to make the numbers pencil out. When the check finally cleared, he bought Daniel a winter coat and a used glove and still had enough to replace a bald tire. It wasn't triumph, it was survival dressed as progress. But it taught him that steadiness, not sparkle, keeps a family fed. Alex noticed that kind of steadiness. When the porch steps rotted, he didn't ask. He showed up with lumber from the discount bin and spent a Saturday measuring twice, cutting once, and apologizing when the last tread squeaked. He learned from YouTube, banged a thumb, swore under his breath, and kept going. People teased him for failing classes. William began to wonder if school had been the wrong measure all along. There were cracks William refused to see. Once he overheard Megan on the phone. Yes, once the paperwork is centralized, everything will be smoother. Not illegal words, just the scent of appetite. Another time, she brought home a folder of estate templates. Just to save you time, she said. The tabs were labeled in neat print: deed, policy, beneficiary, will. A map laid out in pastel. The night he read his own obituary, those tabs flashed in his mind like road signs leading to a destination he hadn't chosen. He realized he had mistaken courtesy for care and polish for character. Alex's gifts were smaller and heavier. A shovel in snow, a hind under a heavy box, 20 quiet dollars in a medicine jar. You can forge a signature, William thought, but you cannot forge weight. The morning after the unsettling dinner, William rose before dawn. The house was silent, but his mind roared with questions. He folded the newspaper under his arm again, as if carrying his own obituary as proof of madness, and walked through the brittle cold toward the small office of the Herald-Gazette. The sign above the building was peeling, but the newsroom inside buzzed with life phones ringing, printers humming, reporters hunched over keyboards. A receptionist looked up. "Can I help you, sir?" William placed the folded obituary on the counter. His voice was steady, though his hand shook. "I'd like to know who sent this." Within minutes, he was led to a cubicle where a young reporter greeted him with confusion. "Mr. Harris, you're alive." "Clearly," William muttered, sinking into the chair. "And I'd like to know why your paper buried me." The reporter rifled through emails on his computer. After a few tense moments, he turned the monitor toward William. "Here, the obituary request came through our online portal. Attached was a scanned death certificate, payment cleared with a card, and, well, here's the email account it came from." William leaned forward. On the screen, plain as day, was Daniel's address. His stomach twisted. His son's name sat there, black against white, damning. The reporter clicked another file. A scanned certificate appeared. The notary seal looked official at first glance, but the signature beneath wavered too, uniform copied and pasted. The doctor listed had retired 5 years ago. William felt bile rise in his throat. "This is forged," he whispered. The reporter nodded uneasily. "We assumed it was genuine. We do fact-checking, but sometimes families provide documents directly." "I'm sorry, Mr. Harris. We'll issue a retraction. But you should probably take this copy. It looks criminal." William folded the printouts carefully, slipping them into his coat pocket. His knees trembled as he rose. "Thank you. You've given me more than you know." By the time he returned home, the house was awake. Daniel was sipping coffee at the kitchen island, scrolling on his phone. He glanced up with false cheer. "Morning, Dad? Sleep any better?" William studied him. The boy who once promised to care for him now looked like a stranger. He placed the folded documents on the counter. "Would you like to explain these?" Daniel's eyes flicked to the papers. For a heartbeat, fear flashed. Then he forced a laugh. "Dad, what is this? Some hacker must have used my account. Happens all the time. People steal identities, send scams. William's voice cracked louder than he intended. "This isn't a scam. This is my death." Printed for the whole town to read, Megan entered, then robe-tied neatly, hair immaculate even in the morning. She glanced at the papers and gasped. Her performance was flawless. "William, this must be a misunderstanding. Surely Daniel would never stop." William's hand slammed the table, rattling the mugs. "Don't you both dare pretend." Daniel's expression hardened. "You're overreacting. It was a mistake, I swear." But William saw the sweat at his temple, the way his fingers gripped the mug too tightly. He knew. Later that afternoon, when the house grew quiet again, William retreated to his study. His hands shook as he opened the desk drawer. Inside were envelope bills, reminders of the life he had spent decades building. He pulled them out, searching for anything that might connect. That was when he found a folder labeled Insurance. His heart pounded as he opened it. Inside were documents, neatly stacked application forms, beneficiary details, claim submissions. His name appeared across the top, but the handwriting wasn't his. A death claim had already been filed, complete with the obituary clipping from the Herald-Gazette. The listed beneficiary, Megan Harris. William's knees buckled. He sat heavily in the chair, reading line after line, the truth carving into him. Megan had already moved to collect. This wasn't grief. It was theft dressed as mourning. When Megan returned that evening, William confronted her. He held the papers in his hand, his voice shaking. "You filed this. You sent this claim." Megan's eyes filled instantly with tears. She rushed forward, grabbing his arm. "Please, Father, listen. I was desperate. The bills, the debts, you know how hard things have been. I thought if the company believed if we just had the payout, we could keep everything afloat. It was foolish, I admit, but I swear it was only for the family." Her voice cracked. Her sobs seemed real, but William had learned to look beyond appearances. "For the family." His tone cut through the air. "Or for yourselves." Behind her, Daniel appeared in the doorway. His jaw tightened, his gaze sharp. "Dad, calm down. You're tired. You're confused." William turned on him. "Confused? I saw your email. I saw your name on that certificate." Daniel's mask slipped, if only for a second. His lips pressed into a thin line. "Then someone forged it. You know the internet. People fake things all the time." But William no longer wavered. For the first time, his belief tilted, and the weight of years of sacrifice pressed down like a stone. He could almost hear Margaret's voice whispering from the portrait. "Don't close your eyes to what you see, William." That night, William sat alone in his bedroom. He stared at the ceiling, tears blurring his vision. "A whole lifetime," he murmured. "Every drop of sweat, every dollar, every hour. And what did I build? A son who buries me alive for profit." The memories cascaded. Daniel as a boy, draping a blanket over his shoulders, saying, "I'll take care of you when you're old." Now, those same hands had signed his death. William broke then. His shoulders shook, his chest heaved. He pressed his fists to his eyes. "Margaret," he whispered into the darkness. "I tried. God help me, I tried." The door creaked. William looked up to see Alex standing awkwardly in the frame, his hoodie zipped halfway, hair mussed from sleep. "Grandpa, you okay?" William tried to straighten, wiping his face. "Go back to bed, Alex. It's late." But Alex stepped inside. In his hand was a folded stack of papers. "I thought you should see this." He placed them gently on the desk. William unfolded them with trembling fingers. It was an email log pulled from the family computer. Clear as daylight, Daniel's account had logged in the obituary, submitted the attachment sent. Timestamps, IP address, confirmation codes, all pointing to the same place. William looked at Alex, stunned. "How did you—" "I know my dad. He reuses passwords. I checked. I thought maybe you were right, that something was off, and I was right." For a long moment, William just stared at the boy. His chest ached, but not from betrayal this time. From something else, something like hope. Alex wasn't perfect, but tonight he had chosen the truth. William clutched the papers, his voice low but steady. "If they want to bury me, then I'll stand in the open. I'll show them the man they tried to kill." Alex nodded once. "I'll help you." Morning light bled through the curtains, but William hadn't slept. The documents lay spread across his desk: the forged death certificate, the insurance claim, the email log Alex had uncovered. Together they painted a portrait of betrayal so complete that William almost couldn't bear to look. Yet he forced himself to, because denial had carried him this far, and denial had nearly cost him his very life. A knock came at the door. Megan stepped in, face-pale voice, tender. "Father, you didn't come to breakfast. Let me bring you something." Her hands clutched a tray with toast and coffee, but William noticed the way her eyes darted toward the papers. She set the tray down and reached for his shoulder. "We're worried about you." He turned slowly, his eyes rimmed red. Worried, or just worried the plan failed? Her lips parted, trembling, but her performance was practiced. No, I never meant." Her voice cracked and tears brimmed again. "You've misunderstood." "I've misunderstood nothing." William's voice was hoarse. He shoved the insurance claim across the desk. "This is your handwriting. This is your doing." Megan covered her mouth with shaking hands. "Please, it wasn't greed. It was fear. We're drowning in bills, Daniel and I. I thought if we just got the payout, we could breathe again. You don't know what it's like." William cut her off, his hand trembling but firm. "I know exactly what it's like. I've carried debt, hunger, grief. I never sold out the living to pay for the dead." Her tears slowed. For a heartbeat, something colder flashed across her eyes, something calculating. Then she bowed her head and whispered, "You'll regret turning against us." She left the room quietly, but her words lingered like smoke. Later that day, Daniel confronted him in the living room. His posture was stiff, his tone clipped. "Dad, Alex shouldn't be snooping through private files. He's filling your head with nonsense." William's hands gripped the armrest of his chair. "The nonsense is in your own handwriting and your own email. You buried me alive, Daniel." Daniel's jaw clenched. He spread his hands as if in surrender. "Look, I admit I panicked. I thought, if people believed you were gone, maybe it would make things easier. Settling estates, getting the insurance, it's all bureaucracy anyway. You wouldn't understand." William rose slowly to his feet. "Wouldn't understand my life, my name, my legacy. You erased it with a keystroke. You took the town, the neighbors, my friends, and you told them I was dead. Do you know what that feels like?" Daniel's eyes flickered with something sharp, unrepentant. "You'll be gone eventually. Why not now when it helps the family?" The words sliced deeper than any knife. William staggered back, shaking his head. "God help me, you're not the boy I raised. You're a stranger wearing my son's face." That evening, Alex found him again, sitting slumped in his chair. The younger man held 2 mugs of coffee, setting one gently in front of William. "You're not alone in this," Alex said softly. William studied him. Truly. Studied him perhaps for the first time. The messy hair, the hoodie, the restless energy, they hid a steadiness in his eyes. "Why are you helping me, Alex? After everything, after the way I looked past you?" Alex shrugged his mouth, twitching in a crooked smile. "Because you're family, and because you're the only one who ever believed I had a chance even when you didn't say it out loud." William swallowed hard, emotion clogging his throat. For the first time in days, warmth crept into his chest. Then maybe I wasn't wrong about everyone after all. The tension only grew sharper. Phone calls came from friends confused by the obituary neighbors sent flowers to the porch, and still, Daniel and Megan insisted it was all a terrible mistake. Yet the documents told another story, one William could not ignore. One night he overheard them in the kitchen. Megan whispered harshly, "If he talks, if he shows anyone, we're finished." Daniel hissed back, "He won't. He's too soft. He still thinks of me as his son. He won't dare destroy me." William stood in the hallway, every muscle taut. Their words confirmed what his heart already knew. There was no misunderstanding, no accident, only betrayal, calculated down to the last signature. The breaking point came 2 days later. Daniel stormed into William's study, eyes blazing. "Why are you doing this? Why are you siding with Alex? He's nothing. He'll ruin everything." William rose, his hand pressing against the desk for support. "Alex showed me the truth. You showed me lies," Daniel sneered. "You're choosing him over me, the dropout, the failure." "After all I've done to keep this family afloat," William's voice cracked, but it was steady. "You didn't keep it afloat. You tried to sink it and bury me with it." Daniel's fists clenched, his voice dropping low. "Then maybe it's time you stayed buried." The threat hung heavy, venomous. For the first time, William felt true danger radiating from his own flesh and blood. He stared at his son, tears burning his eyes. "If you want me gone, you'll have to look me in the eye when you do it." That night, alone again in the silence of his room, William stared at Margaret's portrait. "I've failed him," he whispered. "I gave him everything and he turned it into ash." His voice broke. "Tell me what to do." The photograph offered no answer, but in his heart something hardened. He thought of Alex, of the documents, of the townspeople who still believed him dead. If Daniel and Megan had tried to bury him in silence, then perhaps the answer was to step into the light. He straightened slowly, his body aching, but his resolve firm. "If they wanted a ghost," he said aloud, "then I'll become the ghost that haunts them with the truth." His reflection in the window was pale-lined, but alive. He clenched his fists. "Tomorrow the world will see I'm not gone. Tomorrow I rise." The house was silent, though William's heart beat like a drum behind the walls. He sat in the darkened living room, the folded obituary on the table. His own face stared back, grainy and lifeless, as if the world had decided he no longer existed. He picked it up again. William Harris, age 70, passed away peacefully at home. Peacefully. The word mocked him. Nothing about being erased was peaceful. He pressed the paper to his chest and whispered, "Was I wrong? Margaret, did I give my life to the wrong boy?" Memories flickered Daniel running through the yard with scraped knees. "Dad, look at me." Then the blanket over William's shoulders, the promise whispered at the kitchen table. "I'll take care of you when you're old." What once comforted now cut. His eyes lifted to Margaret's portrait above the mantel. He heard her voice from the last days, fragile but firm. "Don't close your eyes to what you see, William. Love is clear if you let it be." He had clung to that advice and somehow ignored it where Daniel was concerned. Perhaps he hadn't wanted clarity. A thought clawed at him. What if he stayed silent? He could avoid scandal, avoid shaming his son, but he pictured neighbors mourning friends, forgetting the town, moving on without him. He imagined waving from his own porch while people turned away because on paper he was already gone. The thought chilled him more than death. He leaned back exhausted. "What's the worth of a life," he murmured, "if your own children write you out of it?" The floor creaked. Alex stood in the doorway with a steaming mug of tea. He set it down without ceremony and sat elbows on knees. Silence held for a moment. Then Alex said, "Grandpa, you're still here. That's what matters. I'll stand by you. No polish, no pretense, just truth." "Why, Alex?" William asked, voice rough. "Why care when people see you as a disappointment? Because you kept me close," Alex said, looking at his hands. "You gave me chances, and because you're my grandfather, that's enough." The words landed like a hand on William's back, steadying him. Gratitude stung his eyes. He put a trembling hand over Alex's. "You have no idea how much I needed that." Warmth flickered. Betrayal had not destroyed everything. Loyalty still stood. "Perhaps Margaret was right, love, when seen clearly shines." He drew a long breath. "They wanted to bury me," he said. "I won't stay buried." "Good," Alex said softly. "Then let's show them." William rose, knees aching but spine straight. He met his own gaze in the hallway mirror, lying tired but alive. "I am still here," he said, "and I will fight." The obituary lay where he left it. It was no longer a sentence. It was evidence. William Harris was not a ghost. He was a man with breath, with will, and with a story not yet finished. He pictured the sanctuary filled with flowers that would never be sent, a casket that would never be built, and Daniel standing at a podium telling a story about a father he had already traded for a check. The image sparked something fierce in William. "No," he said aloud to the empty room. "You don't get to narrate my life." He folded the obituary into a sharp rectangle and slid it under a paperweight. Let it sit there like a pinned moth, proof that something tried to fly away with his name and failed. Alex sipped his tea and watched him with a care that did not hover. "We don't have to be perfect tomorrow," Alex said. "We just have to be honest. Honesty." The word felt like a key in William's palm. He nodded, not trusting his voice. Outside, a siren rose and fell somewhere far off. Inside, the small clock on the mantel ticked the same way it always had. The world had not ended. It had only changed. And change, William decided, would find him standing up. The morning after his decision, William woke with a sense of clarity he hadn't felt in years. Sleep still clung to his eyes, but resolve stiffened his back. He gathered the papers from his desk: the forged death certificate, the insurance claim with Megan's handwriting, the email log Alex had recovered. He placed them into a worn leather folder, the same one he used decades ago to carry delivery contracts for the trucking company. Back then, those contracts had been about building a future. Now, this folder carried proof of betrayal, the evidence of an attempted theft of his very life. He shaved carefully, buttoned his best shirt, and slipped on a jacket. Alex watched from the doorway at eyebrows raised. "You look like you're heading to court," he said. "In a way I am," William replied, sliding the folder into his bag. "Today I stop hiding." Alex hesitated. "Want me to come?" William studied his grandson, the messy hair, the restless eyes that now shone with something steadier. "Yes, I think I do." They arrived at the Herald-Gazette just after 9. The receptionist's eyes widened when she saw William. "Mr. Harris, you're here." "Yes," William said, setting the folder firmly on the counter. "And I expect the paper to tell this town I'm alive. You published my death. Now you'll publish the truth." The editor, a graying man in suspenders, ushered them into his office. He listened as William laid out the evidence page by page, Alex sitting beside him silently nodding at key moments. The editor's face hardened. This isn't just a correction. This is fraud. Insurance fraud, forgery, serious crimes. Then write it, William said. Let the world see I'm not gone. The editor promised a full retraction and a feature. A photographer snapped William's picture alive and firm-eyed. Alex grinned awkwardly. Guess you'll be front page, Grandpa. Better this than a coffin, William muttered. By noon, whispers had already begun around town. Neighbors who had left flowers on William's porch now stopped by to see for themselves. Mrs. Carter nearly fainted when he opened the door. Bill. But you read a lie, William said gently. I'm still here. Word spread fast. By late afternoon, a small crowd gathered on the sidewalk murmuring, pointing. Some apologized. Others shook their heads in disbelief. For William, each handshake, each astonished face chipped away at the invisible coffin Daniel had built. For the first time since reading the obituary, he felt truly alive. But Daniel and Megan were not idle. That evening they arrived, faces set, voices polished. Megan clutched William's hand, speaking loudly enough for the neighbors gathered nearby to hear. Father, we're so relieved. This terrible mistake has caused such pain. If only we had known sooner. William pulled his hand back. His voice rose clear and unwavering. Don't act. Don't pretend. You wrote me out of life and now you want to write it off as a mistake. Daniel's face flushed. Dad, please not here. People are watching. Let them watch, William declared. He stepped onto the porch, raising his voice so all could hear. I am alive and I will not be erased, not by anyone. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Daniel's mask cracked for an instant, anger flashing before he smoothed it away. You're confused? He hissed under his breath. No, William said, staring him down. For the first time, I see clearly. That night, William sat at his kitchen table with Alex. The boy leaned forward, excitement shining in his eyes. You were amazing out there. Everyone saw. They can't deny it now. William nodded slowly. The truth is a heavy thing, Alex, but once spoken it cannot be buried. He opened the folder again, staring at the documents. Tomorrow we take the next step, the police, Alex asked. Yes. It's time the law saw what my own blood has done. Alex's smile faltered, but he nodded. I'll be with you. The next morning, William walked into the police station. The sergeant behind the desk blinked in shock. Mr. Harris? I thought, yes, everyone did. William laid the folder on the counter, but I'm alive, and I have proof that someone tried to erase me. He explained calmly, showing the forged death certificate, the obituary submission, the insurance claim. The sergeant's face grew grim. This is serious. Insurance fraud, falsifying documents, attempted theft. We'll open an investigation immediately. William exhaled, his shoulders easing slightly. For weeks he had carried the weight of silence. Now at last the truth had begun to shift into action. When they left the station, Alex clapped him on the back. Grandpa, you did it. No, William said softly. We did. The police visit had shifted something irreversible. By the next day, officers in plain clothes came by to ask further questions, taking copies of the documents William provided. They promised follow-up, their tones professional, but edged with disbelief. It's not often we investigate a man for being alive, one officer joked lightly, though his eyes stayed serious. William simply nodded. It's not often a son kills his father on paper, he replied. That afternoon, the Herald-Gazette published the retraction. The front page bore William's photograph, his face lined but resolute. The headline read, Local man declared dead is very much alive, family fraud suspected. The article detailed the forged death certificate, the insurance claim, the investigation now underway. Copies sold out within hours. At the café where William had first discovered his own obituary, strangers came up to shake his hand. Glad you're still with us, one said. Another mutt. But Daniel and Megan scrambled to contain the damage. They called neighbors, insisting the whole thing was a bureaucratic blunder. They even tried to frame William as forgetful, confused. He's old. Megan told Mrs. Carter with a sympathetic smile. He mixes things up. You know how it is. Yet when Mrs. Carter repeated those words to William later, he lifted his chin. I may be old, but I know the difference between life and death, and I know who tried to steal mine." That evening, William stood again on his porch. A small group had gathered, neighbors, friends, even a few reporters. He cleared his throat, voice trembling at first, but then gaining strength. "I was declared dead without my consent. My son and his wife forged papers, filed claims, tried to erase me. But I am here, I'm alive, and I will not be erased." The words rolled out steady and strong. Applause broke out. Cameras clicked. Daniel, standing stiffly by the fence, glared with eyes that could burn whole. Inside the house, Daniel cornered him later. His face was red, his voice a hiss. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You've ruined me, ruined us." William stared him down. "No, Daniel, you ruined yourself. You'll regret this," Daniel spat. "You think the cops will save you? You think the town will stand by you? They'll turn on you. They always do." William's hand tightened on the armrest of his chair, but his voice was calm. "Let them. I've already been buried once. I know how to rise." Daniel left, slamming the door. Megan followed silently, her mask of politeness gone, replaced by something harder. Alex, who had been listening from the hallway, stepped in. "Grandpa," he said softly. He looked ready to, "I don't know, he's dangerous." William nodded slowly. "I know, but danger doesn't scare me anymore. Silence does." The days that followed were a blur of statements, interviews, visits from detectives. Each time, Alex sat nearby, steady, ready to speak if William faltered. Once, when William grew weary describing the forged certificate, Alex put a hand on his shoulder. "I'll explain it," he told the officer, then laid out the technical details of the email log with surprising clarity. William watched, pride swelling in his chest. For years he had overlooked this boy. Now Alex was his anchor. Community support grew too. Old friends stopped by with casseroles as though morning had turned into celebration. "You gave us a scare," one chuckled, "but you're tougher than any obituary." Children waved from bicycles when they passed. Some even called out, "Hi, Mr. Harris, glad you're not dead." The innocence made William laugh for the first time in weeks, yet beneath the warmth, tension simmered. Daniel avoided the house for a few days, but William knew it was not surrender. He had seen the fury in his son's eyes. He knew this battle was only beginning. Late at night, he would sit by the window watching the empty street, wondering if Daniel plotted his next move in the dark. One evening, William found himself once again before Margaret's portrait. The lamplight caught her smile, frozen in oil and canvas. "I've done what I had to," he murmured. "I've spoken the truth. Now the law must finish it." He thought of her last words. "Love is clear if you let it be." And he realized that even betrayal once faced brought a kind of clarity. He had lost a son, but perhaps gained a grandson he could finally trust. Alex entered then, holding another folded newspaper. He grinned. "Look, Grandpa, you're a hero now. Front page twice in a week." William chuckled, shaking his head. Not a hero, just a man who refused to stay buried. Alex sat beside him, more serious now. "Whatever comes next, I'll be there." William placed a hand on his shoulder, gripping firmly. "And I'll stand too, because the truth is stronger than any lie." Outside, the night was cool, the stars sharp against the sky. William stepped onto the porch, breathing deeply. He had faced erasure, betrayal, humiliation. Yet here he stood alive, known, seen. Tomorrow might bring trials, police hearings, more venom from Daniel, but tonight he belonged to life again. And as he closed the door, he whispered to himself, "This is not the end. This is the beginning of justice." The official investigation moved quickly. Within days, police called Daniel to the station for questioning. Megan, pale and trembling, clung to his arm as they walked across the porch. "Say it was a mistake," she whispered urgently. "Tell them the paperwork got mixed up. They'll believe you." But Daniel's jaw was locked tight, his pride refusing to bend. William stood by the window, watching them leave. "You buried me with ink and lies," he murmured. "Now the law will exhume the truth." Later that week, neighbors gathered outside as word spread of the inquiry. Some brought pies, others only their curiosity, but all wanted to hear the story firsthand. William stepped onto the porch. Alex at his side. The murmurs quieted. "I was betrayed," William said, his voice clear. "My son forged papers, declared me dead, and sought to profit from it. But I am alive, and I will not allow the truth to be silenced again." Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few clapped hesitantly, then more joined until applause filled the street. Megan covered her face and wept loudly, her performance convincing only to the untrained eye. Behind her, Daniel's mask cracked. His voice rang out sharp and bitter. "You've destroyed this family, old man." William faced him steadily. "No, Daniel. You destroyed it when you tried to trade your father's breath for a bank check." The crowd murmured, louder reporters scribbling notes. William lifted a hand for silence. His tone softened but carried weight. "I want you all to know I've prepared for this. Months ago I rewrote my will. It has been sealed with my attorney, and in that will I leave everything, not to those who sought my death, but to the one who stood by me when I lived, my grandson, Alex." Heads turned, whispers surged. Alex blinked in shock, his mouth falling open. "Grandpa, you didn't have to." "I did," William cut him gently, "because loyalty deserves reward, and betrayal deserves nothing." The declaration landed like thunder. Some neighbors cheered openly. Others shook their heads, muttering about shame and scandal, but all eyes fixed on Daniel, whose face twisted with rage. "You can't do this," Daniel shouted. "I'm your son. That house, that land, they're mine by right." "No," William said firmly. "They are mine by life, and I choose where they go." Daniel lunged forward, but two officers stepped between them, holding him back. "Enough," one barked. Megan clutched his arm, sobbing, though her eyes glimmered with cold fury. William drew a slow breath, then looked toward the portrait of Margaret visible through the window. His voice dropped just for her. "It's done, my love. Justice lives, even if love has broken." Alex stepped closer, placing a steady hand on his grandfather's shoulder. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered. William nodded, strength flowing back into his tired body. The narrator's voice closes the story. If you woke tomorrow to find your own family had written your obituary, what would you do? Would you stay silent, or would you rise to speak the truth? Friends, if this story struck you, leave your thoughts in the comments. Remember to like this video, subscribe for more stories of family betrayal and justice, and above all, take care of your health. Hold close those who truly stand by you, and never let anyone erase your worth. Thank you for watching.